Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV. Let's secure, proceed, and get underway. Too many business owners think that achieving financial success must be the ultimate goal in their entrepreneurial journeys. However, one CEO and entrepreneur is on a personal mission to change the conversation in the business world, moving away from the pursuit of success to focusing on fulfillment instead. Christan Hiscock is CEO and co-founder of Cardia, which offers what he terms heart-centered financial services to help people reach their goals. Christan is the leader of 14 thriving businesses across a range of industries. Christan's experience and advice will help any home-based entrepreneur to achieve greater success through achieving greater fulfillment. So, greeting, Christan Hiscock. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hello to our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
Hey, thanks for dialing in from the beautiful, inspiring, water-filled area of Vancouver Island.
Yes.
Yeah, I got up there a couple times in the Navy, and it's I could see why somebody could go out there and never want to leave. It's beautiful country.
Many people have done that. I'm one of those. I just love it here. I came out here and I just fell in love.
Is it kind of an entrepreneurial hub? I heard in Canada kind of has its entrepreneurial centers. Is it kind of?
It is different. There's in Victoria, which is about 45 minutes down island. We have a lot of the tech companies are coming from all over the world to actually headquarters there, which has been kind of cool. But yeah, it's been good. I also have business operations in Calgary, Alberta, which is in the next province over. And so that's actually very entrepreneurial in Calgary. So that's where we actually started the Cardia in the first place.
Oh, okay. And I guess the skiing's better there too. Or snow skiing.
Oh yeah, the Rocky Mountains right there.
Oh, cool. Well, calling in from a beautiful part of the world. Thanks for connecting in. And Christan Hiscock, let's get to know you better. Tell us more about Cardia. What is the company all about?
Awesome. Well, thank you for the question. And Cardia first started as an actual focusing on financial services companies, which was we had a mortgage brokerage, financial advising, investment advising. And then we kind of started getting into real estate after a couple of years. So we started buying and acquiring real estate within partnership with a good partner of ours, Carolyn Ricciardi. And then after a while, we've started building systems for the financial services, realizing that we can really help serve, Canadians on their financial goals and pictures. But the way that we were running the business was about running this heart-centered approach like we talk about. And so we actually moved Cardia more into just financial services, into helping build and scale companies in general. Using this kind of heart-centered approach that I know we'll probably end up talking about. Right. And so really what I look at it as now as a venture company, operationally backed. So we really help on the operational side of all the companies that we own underneath our banner.
So it sounds like there's that key related aspect between the different businesses. I mean, one built on the other and then built on the other, which you find common in diversifications like you've had.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. It's like we building different companies and all of a sudden you see different connections to it. And then for us, we really found this deep rootedness that we want to serve other people, and lots of industries besides financial services can do that. And so we want to serve them from this heart-centered approach, which is actually cool because the word Cardia is the Greek word for heart. So we wanted to take the heart-centered approach to the financial services.
No, you had to smack me around on that. We were getting started. I was saying cardio, which I guess ties in with the Latin for heart. I kept calling your company Cardio because I need to do more cardio. I don't know.
Right, exactly. Both you and me both. We got to get that more cardio in, and all of us probably.
Well, I like to talk about spark. There always seems to be a spark that starts it all. Christan, what inspired you to found Cardia?
You know what? I think when I was as a financial advisor, when I was first started, I noticed so many families that were just having to deal with, the different institutions, and it seemed very transactional, right? And so when I met with the co-founder, we were chatting about that. He was in the mortgage industry, and he was sharing as well about how it was very transactional in his line of work. And even some of the other brokers and advisors were like that as well. And we really wanted to make a change because we wanted to be able to put those clients first, really understand their bigger picture so that we can help and serve them. And so the spark was really looking at seeing so many clients, so many people feeling like they're just a number, not actually listening and hearing their goals, their heart for their futures. And so we wanted to build a company that focused 100% on that. And obviously we need the skills and the lessons and teach people things, but it all needs to center around the person's actual goals for their futures. And then we started seeing that that's the same thing in the business world, right? Most businesses are like that. And so that's what kind of, we gradually started expanding into doing more business operations.
Your spark is you learned about what the industry you was in, got some experience, and I hate the cliche, but you saw a better way to build the mousetrap by moving away from numbers and looking more at the people then.
That's a great way to summarize it for sure.
A mousetrap. I don't know. It seems to come up in every podcast. But listen, leading on to that, well, you have an interesting take that you're adamant about having, heart-centered business practices. Why do you feel that is so important? And you can talk to us a little bit about that.
I love that because I think obviously naming the company Heart, we have a lot of what we mean heart-centered approaches to business. And a lot of that is like really just taking care of your customers, taking care of your clients, and taking care of your people internally, right? So for us, we have, well over 50 people inside of our companies now. And when I look at that, it's like, how do we treat them with respect, knowing that they have lives, goals, aspirations for their scenario? So how do we talk with our own team members so we can empower them to do the same thing with their customers, right? So one of the areas in that heart-centered approach is making it more about building a community and collaborating than it is about what it looks like to when they show up on time, or if they're what expo did they sell enough this month. It's about really who are they as a character? Are they feeling happy? Are they feeling fulfilled?
So in a way, it kind of ties in. You start heart-centered by building that into your company culture.
Totally. Yeah. And a quick example that probably will help with it is like, we are in the real estate. We have lots of tenants that occupy the houses that we own. And a lot of times in the real estate, if someone misses payments, they get evicted.
Throw them out on the street.
Right? Throw them out on the street. That's the attitude. Well, recently we had someone that had some trouble and hard to do, and we have every right to evict them. But one of our acquisitions people was like, and working with them, say, hey, what if I go and call them and see if I can help them with their mindset, help them with what's going on in their financial picture. And they did that. And that person was then feeling empowered to then pay it, get back on track, start paying us again. And when you look at it from a business standpoint, that's the heart-centered approach. But it wasn't a bad financial decision, because if we just kick the tenant out, now we have to replace them. Maybe there's some legal stuff, but we worked with them. They were able to get back on track.
Yeah, it's the same principle of having to replace is so much more expensive. I think, you lose an employee, 80% of the cost is gone. Sometimes there's 80% of a cost of what their salary is over a year, and then having to turn around and replace that will apply across any business you're operating. I imagine if you're kind of taking a bigger picture approach on that might open up some other opportunities. So you see, you help this landlord with finances, and suddenly they could become a client for getting fixed up and then being financial services.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing was the first thing we thought of was like, what's going on with their lives? What's happening that's making them not be able to make these payments? And I think that's that approach we want to switch, is like treat people like they're treated. No one wants to be treated like a number.
Mm-hmm. That's a good take. Well, you're also a big believer in the need for business owners to strive for fulfillment rather than success specifically. Why do you believe this focus on fulfillment?
Well, guys, I look at this as fulfillment is really the key. And how I describe it is, if you think of success, it's really an indicator of what other people around you think of where you're at, right? Are you financially successful? Is your family successful? Everybody has an opinion what success means and what success looks like for you. Fulfillment is an intrinsic thing. It is how you feel. It's about you being the best version of yourself. It's more of a character thing at the end of the day, because you're feeling like you're doing things that bring you life, bring your family life. And so when you're measuring what your actions based on that, you're actually going to be doing things that benefit the people around you in such a bigger way as well. And obviously you're going to have that joy and fulfillment and feel like you're actually being the best version of yourself. A lot of people can be successful and be miserable, right? We look at that in these headlines now where we have these famous people, successful business people that are, getting, depressed and coming down and having suicides or these type of things that,
and mix in a little COVID and
mix in COVID and all this stuff. And you have these people that are just miserable because they're chasing all these things. They look like they're successful, but at the end of the day, they're not fulfilled. So really, I always say success is meaningless without fulfillment. So let's start focusing on fulfillment. What does it mean?
Probably safe to say that I'm trying to connect these two, that if you're focusing on fulfillment, chances are you'll have a higher probability of reaching those success factors that you originally got in for.
I love it. Yeah. When we do the writing, that's what we talk about, right? We like, if you're fulfilled, isn't success a given, right? Like that's kind of that component. It's not the other way around.
I got to cycle back on one thing I was just thinking of with building a culture and all that, and I'm having employees. What do you think about Zoom and people Zooming in and that hybrid workplace seems to build, better culture and satisfaction? Is that working out for you okay, the new Zoom world, like we're doing here on the podcast?
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's been really good because it's allowed people to kind of work from different areas. I know a lot of people on my team are excited that they can travel and work from wherever they want to be. I think there's important that we don't get away from not having any physical connection. So I always talk about
the hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid, what you said, like the high tech and high touch, right? I love doing meetings in person still, and we Zoom a few other people in. So I think this new way of people thinking about it, we've been doing this for years. Pre-COVID, we were online. People had flexible workspaces and hours. And so and that's all kind of to that fulfillment metric, right? Some people work really good in the evening times or into the late morning. Some people are early birds, are up at 5 a.m. So it's like, why do we need to dictate that they have to come at this period of time? It's more about get the work done. Unless you're in an industry that you're obviously got to have an appointment with somebody. That makes sense.
So you were already kind of before the pandemic, you were plugging into this world already to take advantage.
Yeah, we definitely did a lot of that, the digital online stuff for sure.
Yeah, it was nice for me to see, because when I got into, home business and all, it was like pulling teeth, and, you're either at work or at home, and there were jokes about if you're virtual. And then this really broke things open with Zoom and COVID and then the pandemic. But what I've seen is that there are predictions we'd go back to the old way, but we're not.
No.
Across industries.
Well, this is disruption, right? Like that's like the thing.
Yeah, it's a disrupt. So you're that you've obviously had to tie that into running your businesses and adapt to that too. But it looks like you're ahead of the power curve on that one. Well, succeeding in business is all about overcoming challenges. Christan, what has been the biggest challenge you have had to overcome in your entrepreneurial journey?
You know what I think is interesting? So everyone that's starting a home business and you're wanting to build something, you have an idea and you have a vision for it. I think what I've had to overcome in the early days, and I think I see a lot of home business owners doing, is that everybody else's opinion around them starts squashing them, right? Like, it's like, you should do it this way or that way. And at the end of the day, most cases and most decisions, either one can work, right? For the most part. But I feel like you have to be able to really be strong in where you're going to, and you need to be able to say no more than you're saying yes to people around you on the ideas that you have, because ultimately you're the one that's responsible for that small business. You're the one responsible for covering your costs, and everyone will have an opinions, but they're not tied to the opinions, because at the end of the day, there's no risk on them. So I think very clearly there's
no skin in the game. Hey, go do this. Yeah.
So I think it's having a clear direction. Be open to feedback. That's not what I'm saying, of course. But know that it's, at the end of the day, it's your decision. So you have to be happy with it. So don't be swayed by other people's opinions on how you should run your small business.
That's interesting. I thought you would say something like, gosh, money was tight, or I couldn't get everybody to go along with this, and the typical problems. But that's interesting. Yours is the feedback you were getting, and to make sure to filter that right and not let that take you down a rabbit hole that somebody really doesn't understand. Interesting.
And for us, it was like that too, right, Richard? Because I was really trying to build business differently, right? This heart-centered stuff that we're talking about, Karen, like that's not necessarily always how other people do. They think about money, they need to be this. They don't think about the going above and beyond as much. So I think for us, I had to deal with a lot of that, the people's expectations on what they would do if they're in my shoes. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to build something differently. And most home businesses are like that. They're trying to cut a niche. They're trying to create something for their families or for themselves. And so you need to make those decisions for yourself.
Well, I think there's also like a natural kind of focus on the bottom line, the number, just because it's a smaller operation and you have to stay more stay more in tune with it. But, at the end of the day,
numbers.
I think you get a lot more with a smaller home-based business. You have a lot more opportunity for freedom and flexibility where you can, you can make those adjustments as needed. But, I always stress the importance of diversifying your business. You are leading, 14 thriving businesses. So that brings up the issue of balance. How do you keep everything in balance?
So this is something I get asked a lot, as you can imagine, knowing the amount of companies.
I mean, you do get, you don't take it out of sleep. You're getting, let's assume you're getting your sleep at night. So how do you create productivity?
And I still get a good sleep. I also, all those businesses, I also have a fiance and who we love spending time and doing things together, and family and friends. We have all those things in our life. And I do not believe in people going all in on their business and cutting all that stuff out of their life. I don't necessarily call it balance as much as I call it fluidity. You need to be able to adapt with different times and things. But how I really do it is building teams. So this could be even as micro. Obviously now I have 14 businesses, so my scale is a little bit bigger than someone saying just running their own home-based business, like a small one. But even for them, it's like outsourcing things like bookkeeping. I don't know how many small business owners just think they should do all that themselves to save that penny or save that little bit of money, and then they're just working all day, then doing all their books at night, taking away from their time. I honestly would say I'm able to do this because I'm able to multitask. I'm able to delegate tasks. And I think you could do that even as simple as that at the early stage, because that time now gives you your creative ability. You're not as stressed. You have the time to make more money in your business rather than trying to save a little bit of money here and there. How about try to make more money by you?
So you started out by relying on your teams.
Yes.
You've got teams for all your different areas, which, I mean, that's probably the best thing you can do. But then you also take a look at things that are common across a business like bookkeeping and make sure you don't get, lost in all the minutia of keeping up. So you should keep your focus on that unique business. Yeah. And I imagine strategically how they're moving in the right direction, and then keep your teams focused. And I can imagine if you tried to get down in the weeds and start running those 14 businesses, you kind of end up running aground pretty quickly because you just couldn't keep up with it.
You would. Yeah. So that's what I think you got to do. You just got to, I lean heavily on the team members, and we continue to grow and delegate.
So we talked earlier about, the businesses all kind of built from one another then too. So they're related, somehow related. You just didn't go off in a new area and pick a whole new business. You kind of moved into it as you saw the opportunity.
Yeah, so kind of yes and no. A little bit, what we've come over the first years of the business was learning how we build a business, that heart-centered approach from operations, payroll, HR. And then we moved, taking our businesses I just bought a chocolate business, for example, right? Very different.
That's different.
than my mortgage brokerage or my real estate company, but the principles behind running the business are the same, right? Treat people great, run the books, know your numbers, like these type of things. And for us, we always tie in what we call strategic philanthropy. So that business, we're going to be giving 10% of all the proceeds to a charity, a local charity, to support it. Well, all of my businesses do that. So the themes of how we run business are going to be the same regardless of the industry.
A key thing is you got to make sure that you promote it, you communicate that you're doing that community service, because I have heard that's a lot important. One of the problems I heard is somebody was doing that, but then wasn't marketing it, and then I said, you got to let people at least know you're doing it. You don't want to, over promote it, but that is becoming more and more. Also with showing that you're a green operation and that you're striving to be green. Let's circle back on that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's why we call it strategic philanthropy, right? Like you want to, people kind of feel like they're boasting or they're leveraging that. Right. It's not the case. If you know your heart and you're doing this for good, like I want to donate to charities because I believe in them. Yes, I also want to be able to use it strategically to have more revenue come in, because guess what? Then I get to give more. So it creates that win-win. It's okay to make money and do good at the same time. And a lot of people, entrepreneurs, feel bad about it, so they just don't share. But share it. And then
you don't have that ruthless capitalist mentality.
No.
We can all grow together. Well, let's circle back on that theme of being heart-centered. For anyone listening today, what is one thing they can do to get started to be more heart-centered in whatever business they're running?
I love this one. I think there's so many things. You're narrowing me down to one. So what I'm going to say is pay living wages in your companies.
Oh.
Right? I think that's probably one of the things I think, and whether you have it for yourself That's key. If you're a solo entrepreneur, pay yourself a living wage. Don't be sacrificing for the future thinking you're going to make it big. Don't do it. It's not good on your health and it's going to burn you out. But if you do have a team of other people that you're employing, pay them a living wage. It's easy to Google, find out what is in your city is a livable wage, and don't be paying people just what the minimum has to do. You're going to get so much more out of those workers. You're going to be able to create the energy that you're willing to treat people and pay people for what they can actually live.
Right.
It's a big thing. I think that would be, if I had to just choose one thing, that would be it.
I think my comment here is that money isn't in the end a motivator, but it can be a dismotivator. And I think that's what you're hitting in right there. If you're paying somebody a fair wage or more, then it won't be something that dismotivates them. Beautiful. And then you can focus on the other things. That's an interesting take. I wouldn't have guessed that, but it makes sense right now. Well, Christan, Hiscock, this has been a great discussion on finding greater success and fulfillment in our day-to-day business endeavors. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
You know what? I just would say that I think your fulfillment matters, right? I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we sacrifice so much to kind of accomplish the goals that we have, but make sure we're not sacrificing that fulfillment piece, because I think it's just everything will happen and the right things will happen if we're focused on that fulfillment, right? So that's what I'd like to say, is that your fulfillment matters, you matter. And so just soak that in and go out there and build businesses that can support your community, because this is what we are. Entrepreneurs, I think, are the way that change this world and for the better.
Good advice. We always like to tell the audience, start with one thing the next day when you wake up after the podcast, and that is focus on being heart-centered and fulfillment. So Chris Hiscock, thanks for being with us today on the Home Business Podcast. To learn more about Christan Hiscock and Cardia, please visit Cardia, that's Kardia.com, or our podcast website for more information on guests. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at our website, homebusinessmag.com. Visit the website for information on advertising, subscribe to the newsletter, read our book, The Home-Based Business Startup Guide. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or homebusinessexpo.com. I'm Richard Henderson saying anchors away. We'll talk with you soon. Until then, make it a great home-based biz day.
Thank you.